DraftKings has released its salaries for the 2023 NFL DFS Week 1 on the main slate. We'll go over the players we like to target and the ones we like to avoid as we build a first look DraftKings Week 1 cash lineup, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee with the Fantasy Football Consultants. It's almost 6 weeks until the main slate occurs, and since DraftKings will not change these salaries, values will undoubtedly arise based on depth chart changes, injuries, and other transactions. We'll be tracking the news, and we'll incorporate it when we take a look at the Week 1 main slate in future videos this preseason. So you don't miss any of our content, please hit the red subscribe button. And if you enjoy this content, do us a favor and click that like button. But most importantly, please, in the comment section below, write in your favorite value play for Week 1 on the main slate for DraftKings and briefly tell us why. All right, let's get into it. Before we talk about the specific players, let's talk about the main slate games. There are 3 games that we think there is shootout potential, and the lines makers agree. In the morning, we have Cincinnati and Cleveland, 47 over under. That is clearly assuming that Joe Burrow in his calf is healthy and good to go. But the fireworks really start in the afternoon, headlined by the LA Chargers Miami Dolphin game, 50 over and under, and the Seattle LA Ram game, 46.5. So we're going to be thinking about those games as we build our cash lineup. Guys, after a long offseason, I cannot tell you how excited I am to build a cash lineup on DraftKings. I'm like a kid in a candy store. So let's see what suckers that we can select. And let's start at quarterback. Look at this. DraftKings has figured out the cheat code for fantasy at quarterbacks. Is getting a quarterback who has a strong rushing element to his game. That's certainly the case for the top 3 guys. But I'm going to save a little money and pick on the game I just talked about, the LA Chargers and Miami. Let's talk about Justin Herbert, who has to be the happiest quarterback in the NFL because of all the weapons he gets to throw to. Austin Eckler, who had been grumbling in the offseason, is actually in training camp, so he looks like he's going to be good to go for Week 1. So you've got him out of the backfield, and then a triplet of great receivers to throw to. Keenan Allen, who's healthy, Mike Williams, who's healthy, and their first draft pick was Quentin Johnson in the first round. He should be good to go. Great options for Justin Herbert. And the one thing Herbert can look forward to is that he won't have to see in the Miami defense star cornerback Jalen Ramsey. He is going to be out for Week 1. So I love Herbert. If you want to look at the other side of the ball in that same game, I'm not mad at you if you want to go with Tua. This guy is so underrated, in my opinion. I think people forget what a great year he had with all his health concerns. So if you don't count the injury-shortened games where he left really early, he averaged 278 pass yards and over 2 TD passes a game. Gotta love that. That was good for top 5 in those games. So you want to utilize him. I think this is a great game to do so. But I'm not going to do either. Instead, I'll follow what we said in our NFL DFS Master Class, which is free, and the links are in the description, which is pick a mid-range quarterback, and that is what we're going to do. We're going to select Geno Smith at $6,100. I can hear the groans from the veteran FFC audience. Oh, you homer, we know you're a big Seattle Seahawks fan. What? I can neither confirm or deny that I'm a big Seattle Seahawks fan. So anyways, look, I know that there's a thought process out there that, hey, was Geno Smith a 1-year wonder? Was it a fluke season? I think, remember what he did last year. He had, as you see on the screen, a completion percentage of 69.9%, almost 70%. That was better than all quarterbacks in the NFL. So, and remember, pass completion percentage is heavily correlated to fantasy points. But when you're looking at last year, keep in mind that this year, Geno Smith has more passing weapons. He retained wide receivers DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and the triplet of tight ends that the Seahawks use. But they added in the very first round Jackson Smith-Njigba to be their number 3 wide receiver, which is a huge upgrade over what they had. And in the second round, they added running back Zach Charbonnet. Now you might say, wait a minute, they already had Ken Walker. Wasn't he great last year? He was great running the ball. He was not great at pass receptions or pass protection. So on obvious passing down, Zach Charbonnet should play that role and would really help Geno Smith. And if we're talking about this particular game, the game environment is excellent. Geno Smith is a home favorite and 26.5 implied total. And he faces the LA Rams. Now, the Rams didn't have a good pass defense last year. It's going to be a lot worse this year. Why? Because the Rams lost cornerback Jalen Ramsey, linebacker Bobby Wagner, and safeties Taylor Rapp and Nick Scott. So, and by the way, they didn't replace any of those guys with any type of big name player. So I love this opportunity here for Geno Smith. I got him in my lineup, but full disclosure, if you're not feeling Geno Smith, I do have another option that we like a lot. So if we look at quarterback, we've got to go way down at 4,900 to get Sam Howell. Now, we are assuming that Sam Howell beats out Jacoby Brissett for the starting job. But I cannot believe he's QB 27 on DraftKings. You're telling me there are 26 better QBs on the main slate on DraftKings than Sam Howell? And why do I like Sam Howell so much? First of all, and most importantly, his run ability. In his last year at college, he ran for 828 yards and 11 TDs. Now, if you look at last year in the pros, his first year in the pro, he only got into one game, but that rushing, it reared its head, 5 rush attempts for 35 yards and a touchdown. So I think his run ability provides a nice floor, and you don't need a lot of floor for $4,900. And I love his matchup. You know what? He's at home against the Arizona Cardinals, probably the worst team in the NFL. So the other quarterback I just want you to keep your eye on if you want a cheap option, and for example, Sam Howell doesn't get the starting job, if Joe Burrow does not go and in his calf and he's out for week 1, Trevor Siemian at $4,800 is a nice bargain given the wide receivers that he gets to throw to. All right, let's turn our attention to running back. And normally we spend up at running back because historically the top running backs have returned value more than any other position. And I don't blame you if you want to go with Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb, both at home, both in big and great game environments. But what I want to do is look at a couple other running backs who I also think are bell cow backs who are in great game environments, and they're a lot cheaper. So the first one I want to talk about is Joe Mixon. Now, assuming Joe Burrow plays, I love the fact that Joe Mixon at a 25 implied total in this game will be the guy. Why? Because Samaje Perine and his 38 pass receptions are now in Denver. So I expect that you're going to see in a full PPR, Joe Mixon pick up his receiving totals, which already weren't bad. And on top of that, he's the goal line back. And what I mean by that is not only does not any other back come in to take goal line carries away from him, but his own quarterback does not run the ball around the goal line. So like Joe Mixon here, but I am going to pass to put him in my lineup here at $300 cheaper. Also pretty excited about Alexander Madison. He finally gets his chance, folks. Dalvin Cook is gone. So he will be the bell cow back, and he inherits a great game one matchup against Tampa Bay. It's really hard to imagine the fact that for years we used to say, don't start a running back against Tampa Bay. Don't do it. Well, those days are gone. They're nothing more than an average run defense, and they're overall a pretty bad team. Minnesota is a home favorite, 6.5 points. I like Madison here at a reasonable $6,500 price. But I'm also going to pass on him in this lineup and instead pick a guy from another one of those high-scoring games on the other side of the ball, Cam Akers. All right, quick history lesson on Cam Akers. So in the 2021 playoffs, he hurt his Achilles. So he was not 100% last year at the beginning of the season, but he just continued to come on and come on. And at the end of the season, just look what he did. The last 3 games, 24 touches, 20 touches, 25 touches. Coach Sean McVay says here in the update, he is going to be a central figure in this offense. Gotta love coach speak. But here's the bottom line. As a Seahawk fan, I can tell you, their run defense was absolutely atrocious last year. And even though they had another big haul of draft class, the one thing they didn't really address much is their run defense. So I think it, again, is going to be way below average. Good news for Cam Akers. I like him in this spot at $6,200. Who am I going to pair Cam Akers with? Well, I'm going to go for a cheap option. Way down here at $5,100. Give me Brian Robinson. All right, give you a history lesson on Robinson. At the beginning of last year, he was unfortunately a victim in a carjacking incident in which he was actually shot. So as you see in the update, he says he currently feels better and healthier now than he ever did last season. But it showed toward the end of the season that he was a different guy, right? They were heavily relying on him, as you see, 24 carries, 22 carries, 21 carries, 18 carries. Here's the thing, though. They do have Antonio Gibson, all right? So Antonio Gibson is going to be the third down back, and he's going to be in the game in obvious passing situations. Now, therefore, the game script is going to be really important if you ever want to start Robinson. And you can't get a better game script than playing at home against the worst team in the NFL, I think, the Arizona Cardinals. So, love Brian Johnson. Now, I have to admit, as you look in the game log, if you want to pick on something negative to Brian Johnson, you don't see a ton of receiving that he does. Hopefully, new coach, offensive coach Eric Bieniemy will get him a little bit more involved in the passing game. But come on, guys, for $5,100, you can't really ask for much more. All right, everybody, let's move to wide receivers. And in this cash lineup, I am going to select only wide receivers 1 on their team. And I'm going to start with a guy who could argue not only is he the best wide receiver on his team, but maybe he's the best wide receiver all in the whole NFL. I know Justin Jefferson is not happy about it. I'm talking about Jamar Chase. Once again, being able to attack that Cincinnati-Cleveland game. Obviously, I'm assuming Joe Burrow is healthy and good to go. You might ask, well, can Jamar Chase expose the Cleveland defense? Well, he only played them once last year because he was injured in the other game. But all he did was score 31.5 DraftKings points. So yes. So I'm happy to get Jamar Chase in my lineup. All right, I'm going to pair Jamar Chase with, at $6,600, Jerry Jeudy. Clear number 1 wide receiver on his team. Courtland Sutton has not been the same ever since his ACL. And look how Jerry Jeudy ended the season, which correlated to when Russell Wilson started to actually play well. You know, he was a monster. And if you buy in, which I do, that Sean Payton is going to help this offense, to go along with the fact that he gets a juicy matchup to start the season, playing at home against a bad Las Vegas team and defense. 6,600 seems like a bargain for Jerry Jeudy. Easy pivot if you don't like Jerry Jeudy is Chris Olave. He faces a Tennessee Titan team that was dead last against wide receivers last year. And don't forget, Chris Olave gets a clear upgrade at quarterback with Derek Carr. Really want to see what happens with the whole Alvin Kamara off-field antics and whether he'll get suspended. I actually think that could bump up Chris Olave a little bit and being a more important part of the offense. But regardless, really do like Chris Olave. But in this lineup, I'm going with Jerry Jeudy, and I need to save a little money off Chris Olave. And I'm just shocked at how cheap this guy is. Yes, a number one wide receiver on his team at $5,500 is Deebo Samuel. Does DraftKings know something I don't know? I get it. The San Francisco 49ers have been struggling at the quarterback situation, not clear who their quarterback would be. I know they're facing a tough Pittsburgh defense, and I know there's a lot of different weapons between Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, but the Niners make it a point to try to give Deebo Samuel the ball. So whether that is in the air or giving him some key rushing attempts around the goal line. So if you're not as comfortable with Deebo Samuel as me, I have a pivot play for you at just $200 cheaper at $5,300 is Deontay Johnson. The guy was a target monster last year. Look at this, 147 targets. I do have to point out 0 touchdowns. So you sort of hope that returns back to the mean. I'm not excited about him going against the secondary of the 49ers. I'd rather attack the 49ers with another weapon on the on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's Pat Freiermuth at $4,100. You'll note that the Niners are 10th against tight ends, and Pat Freiermuth has become really Kenny Pickett's second targeted guy after Deontay Johnson. 7.5 targets a game is not bad for a tight end. I absolutely expect values to open up. So if they do open up and you have the ability to pay up for either of the 2 top tight ends, keep in mind, Kelsey's not on the main slate. Andrews and Hawkinson are both at home. They're both favored. They are clearly the first or second option on their team. And gosh, really love the defenses that they get to face. All right, let's go to the flex position. And I'm taking a look at our lineup, and we actually don't have a single player from that Miami LA Charger game, which is that 50 over and under. I'd like some exposure to that game. So let's get it in the passing game. I'm amazed. Keenan Allen is $7,300. Look how cheap I can go to get his partner in crime, who I think is just about as strong, Mike Williams. So I'm going to get Mike Williams in my lineup at $5,700. It's kind of funny. You've got Keenan Allen at $7,300, and you've got Quentin Johnson, the rookie, at $4,400 if you really want to save money. I think I'm going to go with like the 3 bears. Just right is Mike Williams. Keep in mind what I said before. The Miami defense will not have cornerback Jalen Ramsey. I really think the Chargers will be able to expose that. So that leaves $2,600 for a defense. Well, I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts are at home. They have 44 sacks last year, so they were putting pressure on the quarterback. That's the 10th most sacks of all teams in the NFL. I like the Colts defense much more than any of the other cheap defense. Defense is so volatile. I usually do not like to spend up a lot of funds for a defense. That leaves $200 for me to play with, as more information comes out. I will tell you, to the extent value opens up, and I know it will, the defense I might pay up a little bit of money for is the Washington Commanders at 2,800. I'm only $200 short from being able to afford them. Now, they were 12th in sacks with 43 sacks. But remember, they did that without star defensive lineman Chase Young, who only played 3 games last year. He's healthy, as well as his edge rusher friend, Montez Sweat. They've got a defensive line that features 4 first-rounders. But the reason I really like Washington is the matchup. They face the worst team in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals. They're at home, the Commanders, and the Cardinals have a relatively weak offensive line and a backup QB, Colt McCoy, almost surely, because I don't think Kyler Murray is going to be ready for week 1. So those are some of the things that you can think about for week 1. As a reminder, we are going to continue to update this cash lineup and a GPP lineup on DraftKings. We'll also be doing FanDuel all in the preseason as more information comes out. So be sure that you hit that red subscriber button. Until then, take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Check out one of these videos on the screen we think you'll enjoy.